groups and kind of build out that foundation. I built my first website in 1998. I know that ages me a bit, but don't judge. I sold my first website in 2005, and was a great thing at the time for me. And then sold my first software company, Microsoft, in 2012. Have racked up about $1 billion in online sales through every channel you can imagine, everything from Amazon all the way to small boutique e-commerce channels. I like to share a little bit of fun facts about me, just so people have a little background, a little the humanality of this whole thing, if that's even a word. I draw cartoons. I think that's fun. It kind of releases some stress. I rode motocross professionally. You can see a photo in the back here. That's actually me. I know I was a little crazy when I was younger, but I paid the price with lots of broken bones. I have accredited courses in 4 major universities that are actually given at this current time and status, and 2 Ivy League schools. And I am one kind of joke I make fun of myself a bit. I couldn't get into any of the colleges I've spoken at. So I've gotten the opportunity to speak at some pretty great institutions throughout the country, but they wouldn't let me enroll. So it's kind of a fun fact that just shows you that it's a tough game. So the great thing is we're gonna jump into is product listings. Obviously, we're gonna go into any questions. The next slide that I have, and something that I really want to poke on, is this is, this is my full disclosure. I do these training seminars for the benefit of you. It's not for the benefit of me. I want to make sure that you ask questions. I want to make sure it's interactive. I don't necessarily feel comfortable or like talking at you guys during this, everyone attending during this presentation. I want it interactive. So ask questions, don't be shy. There is no wrong question. There's no bad question. I know you've probably heard that in your life before, but please ask questions. I don't want to subject you to death of PowerPoint. So I don't want you to be bored. I don't want you to be like, oh, slide after slide. That's just not how I like to present or do things. And I feel like, I want you to get the most out of this. In addition to that, make sure you take a lot of notes. There's going to be a lot of information covered in this session that is going to be relatively fast. So I want to make sure that you're taking notes. There's some high points, and I'll kind of point out those things to really kind of take back to your business and to your operation if you're starting up, or wherever you're at in the ecosystem is all going to be very relevant. So let's go into a little bit. We'll just kind of kick it straight off into product positioning. Now, there's some key components in product positioning and some things that have changed since COVID, and things have changed since we've sped up this e-commerce world. So just for a fact, is we had 6 years of growth all happened within 2020. So if you were to combine the previous 6 years of growth in e-commerce, it all equated to 2020's numbers. It was a crazy increase, unheard of, never happened before, really, in any industry, and was really kind of .com bubble boom, hockey stick. So product positioning and things are changing, because what that has created is it's created more competition. There's about 500,000 websites getting launched every day, to the tune of, we're almost at 2 billion live sites globally. And that creates a challenge. That creates a challenge for any manufacturer, creates a challenge for any company that's trying to show themselves ahead of another, or allow their product to be seen by multiple groups. And there's a lot of ways in which we can make sure that happens, that are just strong practices that we should follow. Okay, so there's a couple of things what's important in a listing. First and foremost, I'm just going to go on the product listings. Writing a product listing properly, we'll go into a little bit of how those things should be written. Really, when you're thinking of a product listing for your company, whether it's B2B, B2C, or it's a service-based company, because I consider a service company a product. It's just a matter of how you're positioning it. But you want to base your product listings off search queries. And I know that if you don't know what a search query is, that is ultimately what someone would type in a search phrase, either a short tail keyword, long tail keyword. They would type in a phrase like, I'm looking for a size 10 Nike shoe, or a size 10 pink shoe or something like that. That would be a phrase that someone would type. And you want to make sure that your product listings are written in a phrase manner and highlighted in such a way. You want to be really concise with your content. So it's got to be direct and it has to catch their attention within a short period of time. We have about 3 seconds to capture their attention. We have about 8 seconds to convert them. And that's just proven off of years and years of data and years of doing e-commerce and everyone kind of pooling their resources together in order to give you those numbers. Now, be direct with your users. Every user, and one of the misnomers that we have in product listings from your own, if it's a product listing on your own site or if it's a channel listing, right? So if we're talking about Amazon, Wayfair, Walmart, whatever channel that someone's on, Zoro, whoever, that product listing is going to be different than the product listing on your site. And I'll explain the nuances and the differences between those product listings and why those are going to be a benefit to you. You got to display value. I know that goes without saying. You all want to do that. Everybody wants to do that. But sometimes you got to step out and get in the weeds. This tends to be the hardest part for companies and individuals to just step back and think about their business, think about the things that people are searching for. If you have a new product or you have a startup or something that has never been experienced, then you want to attach yourself and simulate with something that's a symbiotic product. So that way that you're essentially climbing on the girl's back to take you up the mountain. You know, if you have a product that's unique and new, no one's going to search those terms. No one's going to search that unique maybe features attached to your new product or your new invention. But if you do, make sure that you're attaching it to something that's already existing. So when someone does search for what's existing, they see your product and they're like, oh, that's cool. And then that allows them an introduction to your brand or business. You want to have really strong FAQ. Typically, you want to step out of, you know, like I said, I always look at these things subjectively. You got to step all the way out of your business and you got to look at your FAQ. What's the typical questions? What are the typical hangups that people have? What are the problems that you're trying to solve? And in the FAQ, you want to solve a lot of those problems. People love FAQ, especially the top 3. I would say are used the most, essentially the top 3 FAQ. So prioritize them, most important to least important. Imagery, we're going to go into that. Being very image conscious. Remember, we don't get an opportunity when we're doing product sales online or we're selling through channel to talk to our customer, tell them how great our product is, really sell it to them in the sense that, hey, this is, you know, something we can build value around. We don't have that opportunity. We have text, video, and images to portray a product. Most of the time it's text and images. Video can be an additional component. So we don't really get the opportunity to have a conversation with our user because we don't know who they are. They just come to our website, they bought our product on Amazon or they're somewhere else. We don't have that interaction. So you have to really paint the picture in your product listing as if you are having that conversation with somebody. You are talking to them about how this product's going to be a benefit to their life. And you want to talk about their pain points and things along those lines. So when we're thinking of product positioning, these are key KPIs and things that I look at. And when we run tons of e-commerce companies and have made, you know, this amount of sales online, that these are going to be super important aspects to creating a product listing. Benefits and features. I know we talk, you know, you'll see that on Amazon a lot. You have, you know, different sections within a product, you know, your product listing specifically. But what I want to talk about with the benefits and features is these cater different to demographic and audience. So some benefits might not matter to a certain audience that matter to another audience. So if you're on a different channel, let's say Walmart, you're on something different, you're on a, you know, you're selling through a reseller, a third-party reseller or something like that, the benefits and features are going to change by the audience. So you have to cater your listings to the audience. So the demographics that shop on that platform. So Amazon's demographics are different than Walmart's demographics. And that's just the fact of it. So, you know, incomes are different, medium, the way people buy on Amazon is different. If they're a Prime member, that's also different. So those are all things that we're going to take into consideration when we go through this conversation today with you, is just when you're building out your benefits and features and you're talking about, hey, this is the benefit of the product, and you're doing your bullet points, you want to make sure you're talking to the audience of that channel, the audience to your website. So if you are getting direct traffic to your website, you're selling directly through your website online, those are the ways in which you want to position it. Product comparisons is also good. We've seen it all, right? When you look at buy a software product, you always see like, hey, here's why ours is great and here's what the others don't do, right? Everyone's kind of, giving you a comparison. What that's really doing is painting a picture of confidence. It's painting a picture of the fact that they're getting a lot more value for the same money or something along those lines. So product comparisons can be very powerful in this. And then analytics. And analytics is something that obviously I would assume that most of you have heard of the term analytics before, but analytics is just that data aggregated off of your traffic, off of your purchases, off of your repeat purchases. Everything that's going on in a site is come from analytics. Analytics is really just a matter of allowing us to steer the boat. It's going to position us and turn us the way that we want to go. So if we don't pay attention to analytics, we don't pay attention to the back end, we don't pay attention to the things that are driving the sales online, we're going to have a real problem. And that's especially going to be a monster problem when you get into buying ad spends on Amazon or on your own websites. You're doing AdWords, you're doing social media marketing, advertising. All that stuff is going to play into the fact that you have to really understand and adjust fire to analytics. And what I mean by adjust fire is some things are working and they might be engaging, and then some things aren't. And we can look at those details through our analytics, through our dashboards, through that type of data. I want to give you a little bit of a simple request of how this works. Now, this is typically for Google Analytics for your own website, but just to understand how the data within an analytics is going to make and break a product listing, because this is how it's aggregated, essentially created. Someone makes a website query, it then goes through a search engine, and then it goes to your server. From the server request, it goes back to the website. And then since you have your website hooked up to Google Analytics, you should. If you don't, we can help you with that. I can talk to you about that during the office hours. But we want to hook up analytics. We want to hook up Google Search Console, and we'll talk about some of those tools. Then it reads the cookies. So a cookie, I'm sure you've heard what that is that's just a data set. Essentially, it's a line of data that says, here's their IP address, here's where they live, this is their name, and it doesn't always give you that information. Google has that information. And then Google sends that into your analytics. Now, you have to understand that analytics are becoming more skewed as of this last, I'd say, 6 months. Google isn't collecting cookies on certain things. There are limitations here. If someone's in incognito or browsing with a browser like Onion, or browsing with Chrome incognito, you're not going to get the cookie that is going to be placed. So the data will say other. So inside of your traffic and your analytics dashboard, you're going to see other traffic versus direct, organic, referral, and social, and other. So it would fall into other. So you're going to see about 20% of your traffic might be other. That's just people that are doing online shopping in an incognito fashion, so that you don't collect cookies, because privacy has become a hot topic. So I'll jump into the elephant in the room. We'll go into Amazon here, and just a little bit about the algorithm changes that are happening with Amazon and the algorithms changing in Google. This is going to matter for where your product's positioned. Also, how you're building your listings will show if you pop up on search queries within Amazon, within any of these platforms. This is going to be essential to understanding these algorithms. Any questions so far? Okay, cool. Questions you can ask. All right. Yeah. So if there's any questions, please drop them in the chat. That way we can go through those. I don't want to get too far ahead and then us have questions. So feel free to ask questions, whatever you want to ask, go for it. This is your session, it's your time. So take advantage of that. So Amazon 9 algorithm, just so we can kind of go through this, was essentially ranks brands. It was originally more heavily ranked off of branding, off of certain things. They used to really be heavy on reviews. They're still heavy on reviews, but it has pulled a little bit backwards because a lot of the review challenges Amazon's having because of the size that they've become, that they aren't as trustworthy as they once were. So reviews a lot of time aren't really fair, reasonable to just judge a seller. So they consider keywords. They used to consider keywords. Now, the Amazon 10 algorithm is where the change happened this year. So what the change was is, we'll go over this here, is primarily shopper behavior. So they're essentially weighting things off shopper behavior. So how your customer is searching for something. And then obviously buyers, traffic, direct. So what they figured out is, since they do work with Google, and I know that that's something that's not so much public information, but they do work with Google. They've used Google algorithms. They learned the algorithm game from Google. So they're both, Google and Amazon are together. And the two most, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk have both said their biggest fear is Amazon, and you can't game the gamer. You can't climb that. You can only climb that mountain, but you can't beat it. They understand Google's power. Google runs this world in the sense of e-commerce, internet. So we have to play by their games because everyone's modeling after them. They're the ones that are on the forefront for data analytics. They're the ones that are going to make your listing show or not show. They're the ones that are going to allow your Amazon rankings to appear at the top with the seller, with your seller profile, and so on and so forth. So you want to make sure that there's some of this is put into your listings, into your thought process and methodology when you're creating your products. Seller authority is going to be big with their A10 change. Impressions, so how many people are seeing your site, seeing your listing, seeing your product. Internal sales, kind of a funny one, right? How would they know what your internal sales are? Well, a lot of folks have their Amazon store integrated with their Shopify store, integrated with their WooCommerce platform. So they can actually look, it's just the game that they play. They can see that stuff. So they can see how many sales you're getting on your website. Don't ask me how they know how to do it. I don't even know if it's necessarily legal, but I don't know. It's not necessarily fair either. PPC sales. So if you advertise on Amazon, they like you more than you don't. Remember, they're in it to make money. They don't, the success of your product is less of their priority and more about margin and making money for them. So PPC sales, so essentially pay-per-click. If you're running Amazon ads, you're running Google ads, you're going to have a higher likelihood to have a better organic result. It's not said in any paperwork. No one's ever said that in stone. Amazon will deny that. Google will deny that. But from doing enough campaigns and doing enough managing of these types of accounts and stores, it absolutely is a fact. It's just something that people don't talk about. So if you advertise on Amazon, even if it's light advertising, you're more likely to get a boost in organic visibility, meaning that non-paid visibility. They judge a lot on conversion rate, so that matters to them the most. It seems like in this new setting, is if you don't convert, then advertising's null and void, and the organic impressions are going to be null and void. So they're going to start pulling those down. Sales history, if you've been on Amazon a long time, that they look at that. That's typical within a Google world. Time on site, time online, and then organic sales, of course. People finding you organically or through a friend or family member. So I wanted to hit on that because a lot of times I think when people are going through product listings, they're not thinking of the reasoning behind the listing, and they're not thinking of the reasoning and what game we have to play in order to be successful and achieve what we want on these channels and on these opportunities. And this is going to make sense for your own website as well. If you're selling direct and you're trying to drive direct traffic, how you're writing your URLs, how you're writing your listings, how you're building them, all those things are going to play a role into how you're going to be found in search. If you're running Google Shopping ads, which we can go into here, it'll also be imperative that the data is correct, because a lot of times the data on your website is what's pushing to Google Shopping. And we'll talk a little bit about Google Shopping and some of the changes there. Now, some marketplaces that I think that are beneficial, if you do have a product and something to think about, is eBay is growing a ton. It's changed a lot. It's not just a bidding platform like it used to be, an auction site. I recommend eBay as a sales platform, as a channel for sure. One thing I love about eBay and building a listing on eBay is that they charge you when you advertise with them when you make a sale. They don't charge you for the click. They aren't charging you for that. They charge per sale. Yes, you have to pay a fee by how many listings you have, a monthly fee, but all of these have monthly fees, Amazon as well. So those are some things that I like about eBay. You have a lot of different ones like, you know, Amazon, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, you got Etsy, you know, there's a couple that like Bonanza, Ruby Lane, there's shop.com, there's B2B sites like Zorro, there's, you know, pet product sites like Chewy and Home Depot you could sell on. They're all marketplace channels and they all take third-party sellers. So it might not look like that, but they do. So I just wanted to hit that real quick, just on some online marketplaces. It's nothing, nothing that I want to harp on too much. Now, I'm going to jump into SEO aspects here. And if you have any questions, I don't know if we have any questions yet, but if we have any questions, please ask. SEO is now a really important part of product listings. And it has always been a relative.
Sorry, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
I don't want to cut you off, but I think I want us to talk about this for the attendees before we move into SEO.
Okay,
I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit on when it would make more sense to use one of these online marketplaces versus having one's own website, or if people should do both, or what your thoughts are on that.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's a great question. I think that cross-pollination is the best way to go. But I look at Amazon or any big marketplace as a good analogy I like to say is they're like your insurance company. They're a necessary evil in a lot of aspects, but they're not necessarily where you want to end your business up. If you have too much revenue through an Amazon, you're a high risk for acquisition. You're a high risk for growth potential because you've put too many eggs in one basket. So diversifying your revenue is extremely important within your business. When you make that jump from selling directly on your website or starting on Amazon and then going to your website is going to really depend on where you're at as far as ecosystem goes and supporting the ability to support the sales. A lot of times in e-commerce, we don't have, you know, the support system's not in place, so you end up having bad scores and then you end up getting your store closed, and that's kind of a whole different thing. But when you do it, it's always going to be number one. It's always going to be the best to sell direct. It always will. You're going to make the most margin. You're going to have the right customers. You then know your customer. You can control your customer. You can market to your customer. You can talk to your customer. When you sell on Amazon, you don't have any visibility to who procured your product. And that is a huge disadvantage for you to develop a long-standing relationship with someone who adores your product and wants to share it with the world. So yeah, that's a great question. That there is no necessarily right or wrong time. It's just a matter of if you're comfortable selling there and understanding the nuances of the demographics and understanding how to position it, you can really do well on Amazon. You could do really well on Walmart. You could do really well at Home Depot or whatever, but really what we want to do is we want to drive initial sales through channel. This is a strategy that I've employed in lots of companies. We work really hard on driving initial sales through these channels, but we want to drive repeat sales through our own platform. And the way in which we do that is kind of a fun way. And I'll give you guys a little secret here. This isn't one I usually share. The way you skew your product for a repeat order, or if something can go EOL, maybe it's something that can wear out and then eventually you have to replace. That's an opportunity for you then to grab a repeat customer by having a specific SKU, a specific UPC that is tailored only to your site directly. So if you would a Google query of a UPC code or a SKU or a manufacturing product number or whatever, it will only show your website. That is a major success opportunity for someone who wants a repeat order. If you're going to use Amazon for your initial order effort, that's fine. The first order goes out through Amazon, you take margin cuts, but the second order is going to come to you because they're going to look at the product and say, I don't even remember where I got this. Maybe it's been a year, 2 years. and they're going to look at the code on there and they're going to try to find it, and then they're going to Google it, and you're going to be the only one that shows up. So that's a huge way of also getting repeat. The other thing that is a trick that we're not going to talk, it's not something we're talking about today, but I'll just throw this trick out here to you. If someone is a new acquisition, new customer comes to your website and procure and buys a product from you, and they select standard shipping, escalate the shipping on your own dollar, and they'll get it early, and it will change their way they view your company completely. They will be enthralled. Wow, I did order this. I was supposed to get it ground 5 days from now. I got it in 2 days. That's a huge tactic that a lot of companies are doing that you don't know about. And what it is you're just escalating the shipping on your end to get it to them quicker, and then they're happy. And you just set the stage, you set the tone, and you set that ultimate experience. And that's something that's tactically done right now. That's it's happening more often, but it's still not used. I mean, I know a lot of big companies don't do any of that, and so they're really not doing those things. And if you are dragging someone to your website direct, people are now less. It's great to see people buying boutiques and buying from small stores online and on Instagram and on all these platforms, because it's really exciting to see small business have an opportunity here. We have all the tools, we have all the technology to compete with Amazon, but we're never going to win on budget. We're never going to win on money. We're never going to win on ads. We just have to do our best to beat them at the game that they play. And that way you can have as much success as possible as a small business. Hopefully that answered that question. If I didn't answer it, you guys can come tell, ask her, or maybe I can, get back on the specifics of it. But yeah, hopefully that covered it at least.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I know it's kind of convoluted, it's tough, because there are a lot of moving parts to that, but I would absolutely want to build on your own proprietary site, your website, build your traffic, build your customer base. That's going to create you the most value over time. Selling on Amazon is just opportunities for you to cross-pollinate and to allow your product to spider through the World Wide Web, internet, and be seen and have visibility and have a lot more cross-pollination is what I call it. And it's super valuable to have lots of channels. So SEO trends currently, this is going to come down, this is product listing SEO specifically. So I should have put product SEO on this deck, but this is something that's changing. So AI is playing a larger role in SEO specifically for large companies that have implemented AI strategies. Artificial intelligence is essentially parameters that are put into play, multiple parameters through different algorithm efforts. And then what it does is it's just going to they machine change. So it automatically changes with the scenery, let's say, make it simple, and it will change the way your products are showing up. So you might be showing up today and then you're not showing up tomorrow. Well, what happened? A lot of times it's AI that's making those decisions especially for a company like Amazon. They have a ton of AI inside of their systems because they're so big, they have to. They can't have humans looking at everything every day. It would just be impossible. Voice search is also something that's impacting your search queries. So when you're talking to Alexa, when you're talking to Google, or you're asking, hey, shop, shoes 10, size 10 shoes, you're using that in a phrase that is how we talk, not phonetically correct English necessarily, or how we would write. So we have to be thinking about how are we writing our listings? Are they in, and then how are we writing our keywords on the back end? Are we using those in phrases that are proper English, or are we using those in phrases and how someone would talk and ask for something? Mobile friendliness, making your site sure that your site is mobile friendly, mobile first. Walmart was the first to pioneer mobile first on desktop about 3 years ago. And they have not left that idea and that model, and they are killing it online. Their Walmart marketplace is just absolutely dominating in a lot of fashions, and I think it's making Amazon a bit nervous. Content that fulfills the Google Eat principle with a higher rank, and that's, we can go into those specifics, but I don't want to bog us down too much on these nuances. Long form content, so long tail keywords, And if you don't know long tail keywords, essentially it's the, you know, if you're going, for an example, let's say, you know, shoes near me, you know, shoes near me close to here. That would be a long tail keyword. And you would actually put that in the back end if you're wanting more localized search, which is actually where things are going. Feature snippets. Featured snippets are what you're putting into your site. That's what's first shown. So that's your feature. And a lot of times people don't fill this out on the back end of their website. So make sure that if you're on WordPress or you're on anything, that you're absolutely filling out your feature content, because it's going to aggregate that content through shopping. It's going to aggregate that content through different aspects, and you want to have feature snippets no matter what. It's very important to give people a little highlight, a little flash of that product. Predictive search. They're just figuring out ways that we can understand what you're going to search for because of your user behavior and AI and machine learning. Video. We didn't talk much about video, but video is going to be monstrous. There's a lot of videos that just, hey, you just talking about your product, holding it is going to be a video that's effective. It's creating it's creating a human element, which we all crave and need. And every buyer wants to buy from someone they like, and that they're like, hey, this company is really cool. I'm going to put my money there rather than in this Fortune 100 monster. Well, video is a great way to get that across to your customers. TikTok, these are all things that are developing, that we know that since Vine happened back when, now we have TikTok, then we have all these different video atmospheres that we can promote our products through. Absolutely take advantage of those when you're thinking of building product listings and getting them out there. Just talk about your product, make a video, a little tutorial, whatever it is. Put it in the listing on Amazon, put it in the listing on YouTube. That's going to allow you to get backlinks to your website. That's going to allow you to cross-pollinate. That's going to allow a lot of things to happen. Video is going to be essential. Very, very important. Image optimization. This is a phrase that is relative. It's not new, but it's relatively new in the sense that for listings, name your images. If you have images of your product and you don't name them, that's a problem. And remember, in the bottom of this, Amazon doesn't, or Google and all search typically don't recognize underscores. So use slashes when you're naming your images. So make sure that you name your images, your product, front view of my product, or you know, product in action, and you really define, use long tail keywords and image descriptions, because when people search Google and they click images, you're right there, and then that'll drag them to your website, your business. So images is something that I would like to spend more time on, but that's okay. You know, we're limited here, but focus on the fact that you name your images. Don't be lazy and keep it saying JPEG 1. Okay. And most of the time use PNG formats. Don't use JPEGs, use a more compressed format so it'll improve your speed. Let's jump back on to so keywords. We're going to go into keywords and phrases that are like-minded. And I'm going to simplify this so we don't have to use semantically. But let's think of phrases that are like-minded when we're looking at our keywords. Again, it's not necessarily if you have a new product, you can't use a keyword that might be relevant to your new product because it doesn't exist before. So you want to make sure you have symbiotic or keywords that are symmetrical to your search query. Local listings are playing a larger role in SEO strategies on products. So if I search for a product, I'm more likely to get local products in my area and listings in my area than I am previously, or was previously. Because the internet's becoming so crowded, now they're having to figure out a way in which they can still accomplish the goals. The big players can still accomplish the goals. So local is playing a much larger role in product listings. And then data analytics should be a priority. Obviously, if you want to remain ahead of things, you got to understand the data that's coming out after. So your acquisition data, your conversion rates, your bounce rates, things that are like really key components to what's going to be successful or not successful for you. This is something that I just wanted to give you a little facts on. So Google Chrome, if you guys use that as a browser, and a lot of people do, it's the most used. blocking intrusive formats, specifically in videos. So a lot of these video ads are changing. So if you're running like a Google video ad or you have a video, they're putting ads in specific sections. They're blocking a lot of that stuff and holding that out. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the slide. You're going to get this deck, so you'll be able to kind of go back through and read some of this. But just understand that there's some things that are happening with cookies and then blocking stuff and going through that. We'll go through the product listing in its entirety here. Your product title is the most important title. It's the most important title. It's the most important thing you should have in your product listing. In your product title, you want to make sure you have the most important keywords that you are going for. And again, are you going to be as generic or do you want to be more long tail keyword? In Amazon world, you can have longer listings. You don't have to have just a 12 character title. So you have a little more flexibility there on some channels than you do specifically on your website. But on your website, you can do whatever you want. It's your website. So making sure that you're putting the relevant search terms in your product title is going to be key. If you don't have your search terms in your product title, your keyword terms, you're dead in the water. You're not going to be seen. You're not going to be found. It's just going to be very hard for you to grow your
Jeff,
business.
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Go for it.
Really
No,
quickly.
absolutely.
We have a question from Veronica in the Q&A.
Okay. Yeah.
She said, "Hello. Did you say to use JPEG pics or which other format is better?"
PNG format. So don't use JPEG. Use PNG. So be you can save most files as PNGs. The most programs will allow you to save as a PNG. So you'll see it in the selection. And PNGs are just they take up less space. You could actually save the same image with a JPEG and a PNG and see how many megs each image is. And then what I use is compression tools. So compressing those images is very important. And what that means is basically taking it and optimizing it so that it's less data for a server to serve. So it's less data for to show up. So it's faster. Essentially, it just makes it faster. But compress your images and then use PNGs. And there are tools, and we can talk about that too in office hours. Feel free to come over. I can talk to you about tools specifically, how to do that, blah, blah, blah. We can go into that. But that's a great question. Thank you for asking. Back-end keywords. Those are all the keywords behind the scenes. Those are all the things that you're attaching keywords to that the user that's visiting your site doesn't have anything to do with. You guys are probably familiar with back-end keywords, but this is really where it's going to aggregate data from your front-end product titles and meta descriptions, and then your back-end keywords. Those are going to be the three things that Google and any search algorithm for any of the channels is going to pull that stuff from, that data from. That's how they're getting it. Price. Product price. You want to make sure that you're pricing effectively and intelligently. A lot of times people think it's cheapest price wins. No, that's not the case. It just isn't. It really depends. And even the cheapest price doesn't win the buy box on Amazon. And I have a little bit about that as well. But product description and bullet points, very pointed. Make sure they're very accurate. They're very descriptive. You want to think that you're painting a mosaic, you're painting a picture, you're painting why they need this in their life, why this is a benefit to them. Stop thinking of it as a benefit to you or what's so great about your product and start thinking about how it's going to benefit their life. How is it adding value to their life? What are the things that they're going to enjoy from this? If it's a neck massager, they're going to enjoy relaxation for once, peace of mind, freedom, from pain, from frustration, whatever. That's all stuff that we have to make sure that we're painting into our listings to really sell a product online, because we're not getting the opportunity to talk about our products. Otherwise, you would sell, I'm sure, most of the time. But that's one of the challenges that we have and one of the limitations we have doing digital sales. Reviews are still important. Positive reviews are always good. And the reason is no one likes to be first, but no one likes to be last. So people like to see that someone's bought a product or procured something over time, yet they don't want, they're going to take that stuff with a grain of salt these days too. So they're like, well, they got good listings. Okay. They're not necessarily digging in and reading the user behavior is changing a little bit because people's attention spans are shorter. So I already talked to you a little bit about sites. Competition's on the rise. Product listing mistakes and no-nos will go in like this. using bad images first and foremost, don't do it. It's not even worth putting your product up. It's going to make your product reputation go in the toilet. You have to make sure that you care about these images. This is your lifeblood. This is the only way that you're portraying your product in a visual format. And as you know, human behavior speaks for itself. Instagram, TikToks, all social media, it's all image, memes. This is all images because humans are generally attracted to images and picture books. We like images. We like seeing things. We can't just read text. So you need to make sure your images are on point, and you make sure that they fall within the guidelines that like an Amazon sets, where it's just white backgrounds and things like that. So I think that investing in images is going to be, it's going to pay itself off in no time. It is well worth the effort to get good imagery. 360 imagery is also something that's important. So someone that can turn your product around with their mouse and see different aspects of it, that is also something that's become very valuable on a listing. It doesn't have to be your first image, but it can be something that's down the line if someone wants to dig a little deeper. Product titles that include promotions, don't do it. Don't put a promotion in there like buy one bottle and get another for free in your title. You'll get flagged, you'll get your products taken down. They don't allow that on most channels. So if you see it, they're getting away with it for a period of time, but they'll get caught eventually from a bot or from some type of crawl. Wrong product quantity, that goes without saying. If you have 2, say 2, don't say 10. Don't make it, don't slant it. Some people slant it in order to make their listing better, and it doesn't work out in the end. You get bad reviews, you're going to get RMAs and have other issues. Follow general SEO practices, but use specific SEO tactics per channel. The reason I say that is you need to be very, you have to understand your audience. You have to understand who's buying on those channels, and you have to tailor your SEO to the buyer. And we can talk a little bit, and then speed to respond. Open tickets, they need to be closed quickly on any channel you're selling and on your own website. Quick responses, you will lose orders if you don't respond, because next thing that's going to happen is if you place an order and you don't get a confirmation email in 10 minutes, I guarantee the person's like, did my order go through? And they're already now having to work as a customer, and that's not acceptable. Customers shouldn't have to work to buy a product. It's not about them working, it's us working for them. So those are some things that I want you to understand. Product listing SEO, some takeaways here. Internal linking, so this isn't your website. If you have your website listing, the internally links change on your website. So you might have a product listing and then there's variations of that product, and that is going to have 4 or 5 different links within your website. Well, that internal linking is something that the Google algorithms really enjoy. And it builds confidence in the site as far as function goes. And when you trust a site, you're going to buy from it. If it looks bad, if it doesn't sell the image right, people are just not going to buy from your site. You have to have trust. And so internal linking is going to build a little trust. Extensive keyword presence. This is going to be really important for your own website, is you're going to have a much larger repetitive keyword presence on your listing than you can, because you have limitations on the other platforms. On your own website, it's your decision, right? It's your site. You get to add the listing, you get to put as much content as you want. So it doesn't matter, put more. I mean, more is better in a lot of aspects when it comes to listings, especially when people are just getting introduced to your product. Make the title count. That goes without saying. We want to make sure that we're catching them, we're hooking them, we're grabbing them right out the gate, and we can talk about title, meta titles or title descriptions, however you guys want to talk about it, if in the office hours. Optimizing your images, we talked about that, so I won't rehash that. But here, title, name, brand. Okay, so do you have a brand? Put that in your title name so that you're going to start dragging individuals to your brand of your product. So if I have a product, this, let's say water bottle by whoever, Aquafina, it's not Aquafina, but water bottle 20 ounce dash Aquafina. So then I'm attaching my brand to my listing. That's your brand, that's your business. That people will actually copy and search in Google. So make sure that you're using your brand when you're optimizing your product listings, because you want people to know who you are so you can get those direct sales. Again, these are like little tactics that, especially if you're on channel, use your brand. It's your brand, so you're allowed to use it. Don't use anyone else's, because then you're gonna get flagged, but use yours. Alt text, what alt text is alternative text, so it's different phrases. So misspellings, it's going to be like if someone wrote the sentence different than someone else, you want to make sure you write in a variety of alt text inside of the backend. So typically inside of the keyword locations backend SEO of your listing, product listing. So if you're on WooCommerce, you have a whole backend. If you're Shopify, you have a whole backend. Image size, we talked about that, and then URL optimization. So what the URL description is, so if it's like, you know, shoes.com/pink running shoes with purple laces. So I will know that I'm hitting those keywords if I'm trying to sell pink running shoes with purple laces. It's something we talk about often because it's very distinctive versus shoes. Shoes is too general, you're never gonna win there. And if you do, that's great. Use hyphens. Google doesn't understand underscores. So when you're naming your images, don't ever use underscores. Never, because it's not something that the machines understand. So just some very important facts there. Buy box. We won't talk too much about buy box here, but we can talk about this because of our time. We can talk about this in office hours. If you guys want to talk about Amazon, if you want to go deeper here, we can. I just like to talk about Amazon because they are the elephant in the room, but I don't want to spend too much time on that. Now, so this is some buy box pieces. Again, we can dive into that, but I really want to get down to this piece. Devil's in the details. What's the big difference between voice search and regular type queries? Now, because voice search has become big, it's really become a major player in search. You know, people are now using their cell phone, and they're going, hey, you know, shoes or whatever, and then they're pushing enter. They're using a lot of their voice efforts, Siri, Alexa, blah, blah, blah. So that's going to become a playing thing you got to start leaning towards on how people talk versus how people write. And that is going to become more prevalent. I promise you, eventually there's going to be a lot less typing. There's going to be dictation that happens, and that dictation through systems now are so accurate that you're eventually maybe never going to not need a keyboard anymore. Smart speakers, of course, we talked about digital home assistants, smart appliances, smart TVs. These are all things that people are searching for. Some people shop on their TV. I know it sounds crazy, but I don't personally shop on my TV, but some people absolutely shop on Amazon on their smart TV. They do. They shop on the internet, they browse the internet, they use their TV for that because TVs have that capability today. So the other thing that is a nuance in voice search is use questions. Because a lot of times when people are doing voice queries, they're using a question like, what's the best running shoe? Question. And it goes, well, the best running shoe is so-and-so's company rated by, you know, here or whatever. That is an opportunity, and there's only one spot that matters, and it's number one spot. You have to be number one in that. So let's just, you know, so just keep that in mind when you're thinking about search. The reason I'm harping on these details is that these are the changes that were dealt with now. These are the things that are happening now. This is not stuff that's going anywhere. These are things that we have to play these games. We have to play by their rules. So understand that voice is going to be monstrous. Long tail keywords, again, I talked about that a little bit earlier, but that's again a longer phrasing keyword. You can have a short phrase keyword or a short tail keyword and a long tail keyword, and it just means that it's just more text, it's written in more sentence form, it's longer, it's asking more details. Those things you're going to want to put in your keyword effort on the back of your listing. Even if you have a simple product, make sure you're using long tail keywords, and we can talk about that in office hours. If you're not first, you're last. I'm sure everyone can name that movie. What movie is that? It's, you know, Driving with a Cougar, you know, Talladega Nights. But yeah, if you're not first on this specific thing, you're going to be last. There is no second place on voice search. So keep that in mind. Create featured snippets. So like I said, that snippet piece that we talked about, I'm recapping that, is make sure that you have snippets. Make sure you have the preview. And in every platform, it's phrased differently in a lot of these situations, but you want to make sure that you have that filled out in the back end of your site. And I know that a lot of you probably do, but I want to make sure that you're remembering to do all of that. Don't leave anything unfilled in that. And then write for your customers, again, who's buying, who are they? If they're on Walmart, who's my customer on Walmart? You need to really do your research and due diligence on who's the actual person you're trying to reach. And it doesn't even have to be Walmart. It could be on your own website. It could be Google. It could be anything. You have to talk to your customers, and you have to then put the product in front of those customers. So you have to write for them. FAQ, we talked about that. Make sure you have a really good FAQ. I tell you, it helps conversion so much better. You'll go from a 2% conversion rate to a 5% conversion rate to a, I've seen even higher. It's just so simple yet so impactful and important, and people just don't do it. They miss this one a lot. So on Amazon, you won't see a lot of FAQs. You should put that in there. There's nothing wrong with that. They don't flag that stuff. They want you to do that because they want high converting products on their platforms. Keep it simple. Don't be complicated. Don't overwhelm someone when they are looking to buy, and understand that this buying process online isn't necessarily a one-click checkout situation. You might have someone that sees your site, they flag it, they end up going and looking at it at a later date, or they email to themselves at 1 in the morning and they're like, I'll check that out later, it's really cool. And then they look on their phone, and there's a lot of times where you're going to have a lot of visits before a purchase. So you need to make sure that you're captivating that audience. Other than that, mobile first, of course, we didn't talk as much about that, but be mobile first. If you're not thinking mobile first, you're done. It's over, because a lot of searches are coming, they're starting here, and they might end up on desktop, but they're starting here. They might end up on a laptop, but they are starting here. A lot of people are searching in their spare time, scrolling products, browsing, shopping. It's just what the human behavior has happened and changed over time. The only other thing that I wanted to kind of wrap up with, because we're at the top of the hour, I don't want to, everybody's time is really important here. So I wanted to make sure that we covered those things, but some things that I want to make sure that you have the ability to come to. So we do 2 programs around manufacturing success. We always have really great speakers. This week on Friday, we have the Senior Director of Business Development for Zorro. It's a B2B e-commerce platform owned by Grainger. It's huge. Grainger is a $6 billion or $7 billion a year organization, if I remember correctly. So it's a big platform for B2B, especially industrial. So if you do have industrial products, this is a great person to understand what they're looking for, what's the difference they're seeing. She's going to have great insight. She's amazing. So this Friday we have that. She's right here. Her name's Tracy. She's wonderful, but just understand that we have Manufacturing Mondays as well. One of our leadership team, Kurt Anderson, puts that on, and this is all free. So you just go in and you can do it on LinkedIn, and you can just watch. And we always have expert speakers, experts in their field specifically on those programs. So it's not, I'd say there's no rookies. The other thing that we want to offer is we do have a persona, find your soulmate, essentially for how to really identify your buyer. We are doing that tomorrow, the 12th, and we are offering that through because of the SBDC, because of Temple here. We are offering that free of charge. We're going to sponsor that for them. So feel free to attend. Just you guys shoot me an email, let me know you want them to be submitted, and I can get you into that closed session. And then free persona exercise is great. So understanding your buyer, learning more, that way you can tailor your keywords. That way you can, so again, it's stepping back and doing the fundamentals that we have to do before we really start selling online the way that we want. And you're going to make a lot more profitability that way, and a lot more success. You're going to get a lot more orders. And then we do have a free e-commerce needs analysis and mapping. So if you do have challenges or problems, again, those are all pro bono, those are free of charge. They don't cost you anything. It's just a matter of us as a cooperative trying to help, along with the SBDC and Temple and everybody that's here. We're just here to support you in your goals. And yeah, we're at the top of the hour. Hopefully everyone garnished a lot from that.
All right, thank you so much, Jeff. Just to bounce off really quick, I posted a link in the chat it's a 30-second survey. We really value your feedback. It is required by our funders, so
Please
we can keep providing these webinars for you guys. I'm also going to post a link for office hours that run today from 1 to 2. So if you have any individual questions for Jeff, anything you want to follow up on, you're welcome to hop in. No registration is required.
Please do that. Please do that. It'll be any specifics. We'll get into those.
I'll give another minute or so just so everybody can get those down, and
Cool.
otherwise, have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.